Here are the 15 ways that Watch Dogs 2 does that. You won't be working alone. In Watch Dogs 2, you play as Marcus Holloway, a hacker who, unlike the protagonist of the first game, Aiden Pierce, is not so much a lone wolf. Marcus works with a group of more hackers known as DedSec, a hacktivist group that was introduced in the first game itself. Throughout the game's missions, you'll be collaborating with your fellow DedSec members, planning and carrying out several missions, and this is surely going to lend the gameplay and narrative style itself a much different feel from what was seen in the first Watch Dogs. Seamless co-op. Tying into this feeling of being a team player, Watch Dogs 2 will also feature a co-op experience that is a lot like what players experienced in The Division, if not exactly like that. The world of Watch Dogs 2 will be populated with other players, and you can jump into a mission with them as your co-op partners at the press of a button, seamlessly, without menus or load times. You can also interact with these players within the game using a simplistic gesture system, which isn't exactly groundbreaking, but still a neat addition. What's more, the game isn't going to force any of its co-op features on you. You can play the entire game online if you want to, but you can also do the same offline. No AR games. Remember those AR games from the original Watch Dogs? They were cool side activities and distractions, and a welcome break from what was otherwise often a monotonous game. Well, those are not returning in Watch Dogs 2. However, this does not necessarily mean that the digital trips won't be returning either. That is one thing that Ubisoft have not been completely clear on. No more towers. If there's one thing everyone has come to associate Ubisoft games with over the last decade or so, it's towers. What started out as a unique, interesting concept in Assassin's Creed in 2007 was perfected with the likes of Far Cry 3. But by the time the likes of the first Watch Dogs had rolled out, this feature had overstayed its welcome. Well, good news, there are no towers in Watch Dogs 2. The entire city of San Francisco is going to be open to players and explorable from the get-go. Larger map. Speaking of which, we can expect the city of San Francisco, which is the setting of Watch Dogs 2, to be absolutely huge. The in-game map of the first Watch Dogs was pretty impressive to begin with, if not exactly outstandingly remarkable, but it looks like the map size in Watch Dogs 2 will be 2 to 3 times as large as the original game's Chicago. Couple that with the fact that there's no more towers to contend with, thank God for that, and the setting of San Francisco becomes a pretty exciting prospect. Differentiated areas. And of course, with greater size will come greater variety. One of the complaints that people commonly had with the original Watch Dogs was that the city of Chicago felt a bit too stale, a little lifeless, with no real flavour or personality of its own. It looks like Ubisoft took those complaints to heart because San Francisco in Watch Dogs 2 will have 5 to 6 differentiated areas, each with their own unique identity and flavour. For instance, the downtown area of the city will be more business-oriented, whereas Silicon Valley will boast of being the home of big-name tech companies and student campuses. Parkour. Marcus Holloway, the protagonist of Watch Dogs 2, will be more nimble, agile and athletic than the original Watch Dogs' Aiden Pierce. Granted, parkour isn't exactly a groundbreaking feature in games in the current day and age, least of all Ubisoft games. But the parkour in Watch Dogs 2 looks to be a good addition to the gameplay, making it possible for players to chain flips, jumps and rolls and what have you. Plus, on screen, it'll just look cool. Better driving. Driving was one of the areas of the original Watch Dogs that drew the most amount of criticism, and by the looks of it, Ubisoft have made massive improvements to it for the upcoming sequel. Vehicles will have much better, much more responsive handling now, with Watch Dogs 2 ditching the simulator-like feel, in Ubisoft's own words, of driving in the first game, while maintaining a distinct driving style that will separate each vehicle from others within the game itself. It also looks like car chases will be that much more exciting and dynamic, because in addition to the better handling, shooting weapons while driving is now possible. Upgraded hacking system. Hacking was an excellent, refreshing idea that was introduced in the original Watch Dogs, but almost like an allegory for the rest of the game itself, it never managed to fulfill its promise and potential. Every single NPC, vehicle, and all the electronics you come across in the entirety of Watch Dogs 2 can be hacked. You can use them to create diversion, formulate strategies, carry out infiltrations, and anything else you can think of. It seems like the game has given you the amount of freedom we were all craving for in the first game. New items to use. Players in Watch Dogs 2 will have 2 items to help them along in missions. One is a quadcopter that you can use to scout or remotely hack or even lift heavy items, while another is an RC jumper, a remote-controlled car that can interact with its surroundings and even hack into electronics and computers using a long R2-D2 style arm. These 2 items are surely going to play a major role in how you tackle each mission in the game. Badass melee weapon. Speaking of new things at your disposal, players will have access to an incredibly bizarre badass melee weapon that I, for one, will be using a lot. This new melee weapon, called a Thunderball, is a billiard ball attached to a bungee cord, and you can basically swing it at your enemies like the Nazgul King's mace in Return of the King. Taser. Players can also complete the entire game without ever killing a single person, and that is going to be possible thanks to the newly introduced taser. You know what a taser is? You know what it does. Stealth. Yes, because enough games don't have stealth these days already. Okay, it still doesn't look like the game's going to have deep, rich stealth mechanics, but it definitely looks like stealth will be an option for players. From the footage that has been shown so far, it looks like players will be able to use the tools and abilities at their disposal to mingle with hacking with stealth, along with the non-lethal route of using the taser, of course. Deeper skill trees. The matter of stealth is also one that ties with skill trees. Yes, skill trees are making a return from the original Watch Dogs, but they're going to be deeper and more complex in Watch Dogs 2. Abilities will be divided into 3 categories: Stealth, Aggressor and Trickster, and players will be able to level up and upgrade their abilities depending on how they want to tackle missions, and in accordance to their own playstyles. Operations. Watch Dogs 2 will feature side missions known as DedSec operations, and unlike the side missions in the original game, these operations missions will tie in directly with the narrative and its progression, and things such as in-game chatter will evolve and change depending on the choices you make and the actions you take. These missions will help you gain followers and support for DedSec, and ultimately help players to complete their ultimate goal.
Like this video? Why not give us a like and subscribe? We try and upload amazing videos almost every single day. Thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you on the next one.